This episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. Healthcare professionals can lead their careers with LinkedIn. Discover jobs by specialty, preferred shifts, and even desired salary. From mental health therapists to radiology technicians, it's now faster and easier for healthcare professionals to find the right fit. Learn more at linkedin.com/healthcare. Side effects may include faster job placement, improved work-life balance, and increased career satisfaction.
This is Cop Talk, talking crime, cases, and backing the blue. Now, here are your hosts, Captain Ed Mamet and Detective Kevin Schroeder.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Cop Talk. I'm Kevin Schroeder, your host, and I'm here with my co-host, Captain Ed Mamet. Say hello, Ed.
Hello, WABC listeners and viewers. It's good to be here again with a distinguished guest.
So today's guest on Cop Talk is Detective Scott Munro. Scott Munro just became the president of the largest police department detective organization union in the world, the Detectives Endowment Association of New York City. Welcome, Scott.
Thank you.
So, Scott, why don't you tell everyone about yourself, where you grew up and how you got to where you are today, president of the DEA?
I grew up in Hauppauge, Long Island. I have 32 years on the job. I became a detective in 1997. I became a delegate in 2005. I ran for the board in 2008, and I had lost that run. I re-ran in 2012 and became the welfare officer of Queens. And then I was elevated to the sergeant at arms position. And then I was elevated to the secretary's position. And then I was elevated to the vice president's position, and then I'm now the president of the union.
Okay. And now how many active detectives do we have?
We have 5,525 as of today.
And how about retirees?
There's 21,000 altogether in the union itself.
Wow. Now, being a new president, what are your goals? What is your vision to bring the union to a different level?
Well, we're doing I believe big with committees. Okay, so I have the board, 23 board officers. Everybody's assigned to some type of committee, whether it's political action, any committee that we have, strategic planning, anything that we do, our contract committee. We are having committees and meetings, and we're reporting on them. Everybody's involved with this board. It just doesn't fall on the vice president and the president. Everybody wants to be involved. We have the delegates that are involved, and I'm working very hard to get the retired members, the retired detectives involved. I want them involved. I think it's important. These are ideas that I've seen over the years, where I would go to say, for instance, we're getting into this right now with the political end of it, with the state and the assembly. Okay, getting out there, endorsing the people that are bleeding blue, that support the blue. We're out there, and that's what we're doing. I want the retired guys to come with us. I was getting sick and tired of going to these locations and doing endorsements, and we're showing up with 5 or 6 guys, and the fire department's showing up with 20 guys, and I'm saying to myself, how do they do this? How are they doing this? And they're doing it by they involve the retired members, which is very important with us. They have the time to do it because we have low manpower. To ask a guy to come on out, give us a couple hours out there to whether bang on doors or stand in a supermarket supporting the people that support us, it's hard now because these guys are working many hours. Their quality of life isn't that great. They're always chasing that carrot and with the overtime. And some want the overtime, some don't want the overtime. Yeah. So, it's different for everybody. So it's important that I get the retirees involved helping us. I reached out to the retired detectives of New York. Obviously, Kevin, you know that. So, and I need their help, and it's important. I know, Kevin, you actually volunteered to help on our committee. Our committee has about 40 people on the committee itself. Yeah. And then we're trying to grab in the delegates as we can to help out with us.
The Political Action Committee.
Political Action Committee, yes.
Right. It's with the fire department. I mean, the the police department's getting a lot more overtime, so it's hard to get guys out there, I'm sure, because they're working. Cops can't get a day off.
No.
I mean, these young kids. I'm back when I was young. You new on a job like yourself. We loved the overtime, right, Cap? I mean, we would stay there 3 days in a row. You'd have to tell us to go home. You know what I mean? Today, the kids don't want that overtime. It's a different. But however, they can't get a day off, and that's because I'm sure due to manpower and the need for the police department. How is the Detective Bureau? How many now, as far as the Detective Bureau goes? How many active detectives in the Detective Bureau?
Oh, I don't know exactly the amount that are there, but we're very thin. We're very thin in squads. That's 100%. We're thin everywhere.
Right.
I don't have the number for squad, but the squads are so low in with manpower. Guys trying to get a day off, the vacations, backfilling.
Right.
And if you're not bringing police officers on the job, you're not going to be able to fill these squads, and that's part of the problem too.
Yeah. Cap?
You touched on manpower before. That's always been touched on. I went into the Detective Bureau, then was the Detective Division, in 1962, and even back then, manpower was a problem because they pulled the detectives for other details. Every time something came up, they would pull them. They even put them in uniform. I remember when there was a subway problem, and they took detectives and put them in uniform, and they were riding the subways, and there was no overtime. Regarding overtime, the first time it came in was, I remember was around the late 60s, 200 hours. That's what detectives were allotted. The uniform guys got full overtime, but the detectives were allotted only 200 hours, and that changed later. And I don't know if you're aware of it, but at the time, the FBI had 25 hours built in to their salary, whether they worked it or not. I don't know if that still works, but the department sort of used the FBI's system for their own. So overtime and manpower have always been a problem. I guess it still is today.
It's getting guys in. Newly detectives into the squad, into the track after the 18 months. We've been doing, but there was a big hit with narcotics. I guess 18 months ago, in August, I think we had like 136 detectives we had promoted. But as they come in, they're leaving. And they're leaving due to, overtime. They're killing themselves with the overtime. Their pensions are pretty good at that time, and they have to leave, and that's where we're losing our experience. We're losing experience in squads. We're losing our experience in homicide. You could be flying a helicopter as a detective, which we do have. You're losing your experience there. Okay, ESU. We have 541 detectives, I believe, in ESU right now. After they do their 9 months of training, after they get that all done, they're retiring. Because their pension is, they're retiring on their last year pension. And that's where this union is taking very seriously changing the pension, the Tier 2A. Okay, I'm Tier 2. I came on in 1992, so I'm Tier 2. Kevin's Tier 2. So it's either our best of our last 3 or our best of our last year. Okay, so now it's coming down to it's your best last year. So our detectives are out there, whether they're standing on the platforms, whether they're out there because we're understaffed in squads, they're making overtime. They have to leave at the end of that year if they hit that 20-year mark. So that's any detective that came on the job from 2000 to 2009, and that's where that Tier 2A comes into play. And that's where we're losing all our experience. And that's some of the bills that we have up in Albany right now with the Senate and the Assembly, basically trying to get that done. We need to try to get that done and convince the city council, because we need that home rule too. You're losing your experience, okay? So this union has 2,600 detectives out of the 5,500 I gave you, fall into that category.
This National Foster Care Month, Marine Toys for Tots is providing hope to children who need it most. Staff Sergeant James Caldwell, who grew up in foster care himself, shares that while handing out gifts at a Toys for Tots distribution event, a little girl looked up at him, reached into her bag, pulled out a stuffed animal and said, "Someone needs to make sure you get a toy too." That simple gesture embodies the heart of Marine Toys for Tots, ensuring every child, including those in foster care, experiences the kindness that can transform their future. Visit toysfortots.org today.
I love ravioli.
Ho tanta fame.
Since when do you speak Italian?
Since we partnered with SAP Concur, their integrated travel and expense platform and breakthrough solutions with AI gave me time back to dive into our financial future. We expand into Europe in 2027, so I'm getting ready.
Well, you can predict the future?
I can predict you'll like that message.
What message? Whoa, hey, we all got bonuses.
You can save for college now.
I don't have kids.
You don't say.
SAP Concur helps your business move forward faster. Learn more at concur.com.
Every idea starts with a problem. Warby Parker's was simple. Glasses are too expensive. So they set out to change that. By designing glasses in-house and selling directly to customers, they're able to offer prescription eyewear that's expertly crafted and unexpectedly affordable. Warby Parker glasses are made from premium materials like impact-resistant polycarbonate and custom acetate. And they start at just $95, including prescription lenses. Get glasses made from the good stuff. Stop by a Warby Parker store near you.
You know, some agencies have brought back retirees. It doesn't a pension, but it doesn't enhance their pension for similar reasons.
That's called a drop program? The drop program?
Yeah, yes.
The drop
Have
program,
you ever
yeah.
considered
Deferred
that?
retirement
Would the DEA oppose something like that? I'd be glad to come back. You
I don't know if I would oppose. I don't know if I would oppose. I mean, listen, that's something the city would try to endorse to help the thing. Listen, I just want to have a better quality of life for my detectives. That's my job, to make sure that they're being treated fairly and out there working. It's just like I said, and there's more grade. We need more grade. Not only that, we're not getting enough grade that's there, and that's important too. That's keeping these detectives here on the job. You know, you have to do. We have a bill that's up there with the enhancement. With the fire department has it, the police department had just gotten it, and the captains have it. Where if you were a detective with 25 years on, you would automatically be a second grader. Your retirement would be a second grader retirement. And if you were a second grader and you weren't fortunate enough to get first grade, at 30 years you would have a first grade pension. So that's trying to keep our members there, and they're there to educate our younger members that come on the job, to teach them. And I think that's real important. So if we can get these bills done, we'll be in good shape. But the city will be in good shape.
So, Scott, if you have 25 years on, you're a detective, 25 years on, you don't make grade, but you get the pay for grade.
You just get the pension.
No promotion,
you get a 25 years.
What really counts
of a second grader.
Right,
yes.
second
Well, the captains have had that for many, many years.
Yes.
Like when I retired, I believe it was 5 and 10 years.
Right.
I retired on an inspector's pension.
Right.
Because I had over 10 years in rank. If you had less than that, you would retire on a deputy inspector's salary.
Correct.
And that goes back, I'm out 27 years, so it preceded me. So it's a good system in a sense.
Oh, yes.
I can see why it would be good for the detectives.
So that's what we're working on right now, trying to get these bills done. Full force. That's why we made these committees, to help us try to educate, not only use the word educate, just explain to, the city council, the Senate and the Assembly. I'm sitting down with a lot of those individuals, explaining to them why we need this, why we need to keep the city safe, why we need the experience here. We actually had the governor at a round table at our office. I explained the whole situation to her. She was receptive, and we're moving forward. And we're going to keep plugging away with this after the election. Like the people that we endorsed that sponsored these bills up there, and that's what we're endorsing. That's what we're going to be going out there doing. For the next we're doing it last week. They're doing it this week. Right. We've not done that either, this union. We're out there not just on election day, okay? We're out there prior other days. We're out there hitting the streets, sending some of our members out there to do that. For instance, I think we have something on Saturday in Staten Island. We're sending a group of detectives there. The day before Election Day, the whole board is going to be going out there. 23, 24 of us, and whoever other volunteers I can get the day before Election Day, and we're going to hit the streets, and we're going to push for these individuals to get into office.
That's great. That's what should be done. Endorse the politicians who are going to take care of law enforcement, right? NYPD, of course. Squad cases in the squad, right? From what I understand, a lot of squads, their numbers have doubled. If they caught 200 cases, they're catching 400 cases because the manpower's not there. Then they put them in uniform and they send them out to a detail because there's not enough patrol cops. So, I mean...
Well, you're 100% right. I'll tell you a little story for the Puerto Rican Day Parade. It was a Sunday, I believe. I think it's always a Sunday or a Saturday. I got called, and we had our detectives out there from Manhattan South, and they were directed traffic. I mean, they could be working on a homicide the night before, and then you put them out there and directed traffic. I got that fixed, but I had made a call right away, and they didn't have their traffic vests. So one of the bosses said to them they were going to take time off from them because they didn't have their traffic vest. Our guys, they're working in homicide, the squads, they're not going to have a traffic vest out there. They said they were told that they had to have it, and I squawked about it. And let me tell you something: the administration, they did the right thing. They called up and they told them, our guys you're not taking time from them. For working the night before, whether they're in the 4-0 squad or the 110 squad or wherever they work, and then you're going to go and you're going to give them a command discipline and try to take time from them because they didn't have a traffic vest. We're understaffed here, and that's where you have to look at it that way.
And how about maybe patrol not leaving? I know patrol's told to do to leave everything open to the squad. I mean, that's another thing. Maybe they wouldn't have 500 cases; they'd have 350 cases because they leave everything open to the detective squad. Am I accurate with that?
Right. Well, you're 100% accurate with that. I mean, but that's what the administration wants. I mean, it used to be listen, when I made an arrest back in in the early 2000s, you never had a sergeant stay with you. I never heard of such a thing. No. A sergeant was staying with you on arrest. I write the case up. I never had a sergeant stay with us. That's crazy. I did the case, and and they obviously made their overtime. Listen, nobody wants to take any. Overtime from them. Yeah. But, the case officer is the guy that gets on the stand. He's the guy that testifies in court, not the boss.
Right.
So it's just the job is changing drastically, every day.
Yeah. I know when I got into the detective squad, 1997 after narcotics, Midtown North squad, everybody wanted to go to the squad. Everyone, now I don't think anyone really wants to go to the squad because they're overwhelmed, overworked, and undermanned. It's too bad. And again, I know it comes from, for instance, is anyone in the academy now?
I don't know if they have it. I think they're looking to put a class in.
Okay.
And that's where that's where it's at now. I don't I don't really know how many or what's going on with that, but I know they're looking to put a class in.
I mean, it's not only New York, NYPD. I mean, there's a lot of other police departments throughout the country that are having the same issue with hiring, retaining, and as well as hiring. But, Captain?
All these things you talk about are alien to me. When I went into the Bureau in 1962, the detectives were considered the elite. Everybody wanted to be a detective.
Sure.
Nobody bothered us. There was always a resentment between uniform and detectives, especially when you brought an arrest. The desk officers would always resent the detectives. But it was a great job. It was a lot of interesting cases. It was fun. It was real fun. I don't think I could ever do it now under the conditions you're talking about. It would wear me out.
Yeah, there's a lot of a lot of moving parts going on here right now, and it's just that we need the politicians to back the police. That's very important, and when they start backing the police, not some of them. You know what I mean? We have a lot that back the police, but they got to back the blue here. We're here to protect the lives of people in New York City.
Agreed. Getting on to another subject, who's the police commissioner these days? Under the Adams administration, I believe there have been 4 of them in 3.5.
He's a real gentleman. I sat down with him. He's a real Delon, a very gentleman. Wants to know everything that what's going on. I had about 45 minutes with him up in his office, and I will tell you this. So we were at a promotion last month. It was his first promotion. I met him a few minutes before because he had just gotten in before the promotions. And he greeted every detective that walked past that stage up to shake his hand. He spoke to each detective and asked where they worked and you know what they did, and I think that's a class act on him. I mean, made the promotion a heck of a lot longer. 134 detectives. But he addressed each detective. That crossed the stage.
Makes the detective feel good. I
Yes.
mean, absolutely.
Yeah, but I never heard this term interim police commissioner. What does that mean? He was sworn in. I saw that ceremony, but they're calling him the interim police commissioner. I have never, ever, in all my years in the job, heard that term.
I don't know. I don't know where they're going with this. I know what I'm hearing is he wants to stay, and I think he's here. That's what I know. I think they did it with the fire department, right? They made an interim fire commissioner for a little while. That woman, I forgot her name, but
Kavanaugh.
Yeah, Kavanaugh, and then they ended up making her the fire commissioner. So, that I don't know where they're going to go with that.
So you think he's staying? Tish isn't coming in.
I don't know. I heard some rumblings that Tish was coming in, and I don't know where we're going to go with that. Where they're going with that right now.
Yeah. Well, at least he has some. He has law enforcement experience. She doesn't. And for an organization of the size of the New York City Police Department, I would say an outsider who has no law enforcement experience needs at least 2 years to find out what's going on.
Well, I believe she was a deputy commissioner for a while there in the police department.
Technology, right? She was in charge of technology.
Yeah, yes. So she always had an open door for the union. That I will tell you. We never had an issue with Commissioner Tish at the time. When she was with the police department.
So if she came in, if she had to come in, communication would be pretty good. You believe?
I believe so. Yeah.
Okay, that's good. That's good stuff.
I believe so.
The mayor. Can you comment on the mayor?
Well, the mayor, I could give you the mayor's been good with the police. Okay, so his administration that he had, has had. We've had a great rapport with anybody that he has put there in those positions. Why they leave, why they don't leave, I don't know. That's way above what I know. You probably know more than I know with that. But we have a good rapport with the mayor, the Detectives Endowment Association. I mean, he gave us basically almost a 19% raise, which I wish it was more. But you know what? We haven't seen raises. Like I said, I came on in 1992. We didn't see raises like that. And I believe he was looking out as being a retired captain, that he felt that the police should have been compensated for their jobs, and they should be. They're out there putting their lives on the line every day.
Yeah, but on the other hand, he signed into legislation local laws that are contrary to the police department. And then when questioned, he says, "Oh, I did what the lawyers told me to do." I mean, that's not a way to handle it. He should have done some background work.
Right.
You know the laws I'm talking about. So while he gave money, he restricted the police. So which is, to me, unacceptable. Police can't. The what's it called? The compression law, chest compression law, all these other laws that went in. He could have vetoed them, but he didn't.
Right.
Scott, and so what would your opinion be, to fixing the squads with the manpower? Just basically hiring?
My opinion would be I bring up motivated wannabe detectives. I want to be detectives and let them be trained by senior detectives. That's important. Yeah. You have to be trained by a senior detective to show you your day-to-day basis what you should be doing as a detective. And like I said, we're losing that. I'm not undermining guys with. Please don't get me wrong. I'm not undermining. There's some real great go-getters out there, guys that are working every day. In fact, they're all doing that. The bottom line is it's good to have a senior detective here, stay here, work and teach our detectives, from past experiences.
Yeah. What about detectives not going to any more uniform details so they can handle
Well, you're never going to see that, probably. You're never going to see that,
Of course
it's
not.
like when I was in OCCB, they knew, it was an order crime, and for a while, and they knew they were picking up 100 guys. They were taking 90 for New Year's Eve or Halloween or anything like that. They know they could pick out 90 guys, put them 90 guys and girls and put them out on the street, and that's where they were picking us from, you know.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think there was one year, you know, before 9/11, I think I did like 19 details in 1 year, and because they used to keep track, and it used to be like, okay, you tried to keep it fair that everybody would go, you know. But now I could just imagine how many details these detectives are out there doing, and these police officers are out there doing.
Yeah, it's crazy.
You know, years ago, in the early 70s, there was a police strike, and the only ones that went to work were the detectives. Are you aware of that?
No, I wasn't aware. I wasn't. Yeah.
And the police commissioner asked the head of the DEA, like yourself, can you get the detectives to work? And all the detectives worked. I was a sergeant in the bureau, and I worked. We were in the radio cars, and the detectives were always a reliable group. Back then, I don't know how it is today, if they would do it today. And there was no overtime either. Overtime, as I said to you before, came in gradually, 200 hours, and then eventually you got to full overtime. But it took quite a while.
Right.
But the detectives are a special group.
Yes, I have a great board. Our board is so energetic. They're out there. We talk. Transparency is big. I want everything to be transparent. I want everybody to know what's going on that board. And, you know, we have our meetings a month, but they all stop in the office and we talk. Not everybody's released. You know, a lot of these guys on the board are out there still working in the squads and different locations. And they're representing their members within their borough. You know, so they're doing both, you know. And they're doing the overtime and they're doing the transit. You know, they're doing all of that, and they're still involved with the union, and they're representing, you know, all our detectives, which is great.
How many board members do you have?
We have 23 board members.
How many full excuse?
And I have an assistant to the president helping me out, who was a board member that basically took that position to help me out, you know, going into this to try to do some changes and seeing what's going on within the city, you know, that I can get some help, you know, that I can go to.
Assistant to the president?
Assistant to the president, yeah. It's in the constitutional bylaws, so I had to add it. You know, it wasn't here for a while. I added that position in because we could have it, so I to help me out.
And how many full excusals do you have?
I believe 6.
6.
Yeah.
What does the PBA have?
They're all released, I believe. They're all
released,
excusals. Yeah. We don't have that, so we could never compare ourselves with the. You know, I will tell you this. Just for 9/11, I think, and Columbus Day, I had probably about 16 people out of the 24, you know, come down to support the families, to support the Columbus Day Parade. There was at least 16 members from my board there, which is a lot, and they're not released. So, you know, so it's showing, you know, that these guys and girls are out there. I have one female detective from the 4-7, first female we ever had on the board. This organization was started in 1917, and in 2024 we have the first female on the board representing, you know, obviously the females on this job.
Yeah. Now, can you tell us about Tier 2A? Can you explain that to us?
It's the pension.
Yeah, the pension.
That's the pension. So
Right.
that's basically what's going on with Tier 2A. You're not, you have to retire with that last year. You don't have to, but it's not good for that detective. So if a detective has 20 years on and he makes so much money and he's got to retire at that year, and he has a good year where he's doing all of this overtime, transit, locking people up, put bad guys off the street. The bottom line is they leave that year because they'll lose money. They can't chase that. I call it chasing the carrot. They can't chase that carrot. It's not healthy. It's not healthy for their lives. It's not healthy their personal lives. Divorce, their kids, baseball games, football games, whatever, dance recitals, whatever it may be.
Right.
And that's where I'm going to have to come in. This is where this union's going to come in, and we're going to try to make that a better quality of life for our detectives out there.
Yeah. I mean, there's guys, I'm sure everyone knows here, that I know personally, a couple guys recently that didn't want to retire, but they had a great year.
Correct.
So, I mean, if it was changed up a little bit, maybe they could stay and would stay another 2-3 years.
Right.
Because they didn't want to leave, but they had no choice.
Well, them
money.
Right. Them leaving is hurting the city. Mm-hmm. Okay? So I've been interviewing a lot of detectives that left, that didn't want to leave,
Right.
that had expertise in ballistics. They got to testify on the stand. You're losing your experience. Yeah. Bomb squad. Okay, bomb squad, I believe there's 32 people there. I think 24 of them are Tier 2A. These are all positions that are trained, that the city's spending money on training them, and then they're going to have to leave. So this is where the governor, the mayor, the city council, the Senate, the Assembly got to get on board with this and get this legislation passed. Because, like I said, it affects over 2,500 of our members out of 5,500 right now. So they'll be leaving. Anybody, obviously on the job from 2000 to 2009 that fit into that tier are going to be leaving, and you're going to lose your experience.
Yeah.
I was told a helicopter, it takes 3 or 4 years to fly a helicopter, and they're detectives, by the way, that it costs over $1 million to train them to fly that helicopter. So why would you want that? Would you want them to stay on the job? Or the person that goes to crime scene and takes a 6-week course, has to take a test at the end, learn crime scene, and then they're leaving the job?
Yeah.
It's not right. It just doesn't sound good. It needs to be changed.
Well, emergency service unit too. It's about
Emergency service.
9 months.
9 months.
Training.
9 months.
Okay. 9 months training, right?
So what I'm doing now is, and the union's doing right now, is we're getting all the numbers together, breaking that 25, where they fall in, and that's where we're going to be coming out. We're going to be hitting the press with it, moving forward. And I spoke to the police commissioner about it. Whatever I needed, he said I would have. Same thing with the mayor, and that's basically what that's basically what's going on. We were at a funeral, and the mayor. This is why I said with the mayor. Before, we were at a funeral, myself and Pat Hendry, and the mayor walked up to us and asked us, what do you guys need? What's the problem? And he gave us about 15 minutes of his time, and Pat Hendry spoke to him and said, this is what's the problem with Tier 3, and this is what, and I took Tier A, and so I educated myself on Tier 2A. Pat's pushing his end of it on Tier 3, which affects a lot of my members too, Tier 3. The problem is like, we're going to get this done, and I will tell you this, all 5 unions are working together. All 5. I speak to Pat Hendry. I probably speak to Pat maybe once a week. Well, I think I saw him 5 times last week. Everything that's going on, and we throw things back and forth. What's going on? And Vinny from the SBA and Louis Turco from the LBA and the captains. Everybody's talking. We all have the same goal here, which is important.
The unions are working together.
Yes, we are. All 5 unions are working together.
Right.
There was a time when that did not happen.
I want it to happen. I'm showing the membership that I want that to happen. On a personal level, I think it should happen. We're all blue, and we're all here for the same thing. We all put our lives on the line every day. My members put their lives on the line every day, and their members put that. And it's important that we all stick together and work together to get this done for our membership.
Well, that's great, because I remember when the sergeants pulled out of the Superior Officers Council because they felt they had many more members than the lieutenants and captains, and they should get more benefits. They had a better drug plan than we did. I always felt that they should be uniform, like the fire department. I think there's only 2 unions, right? There's the officers and the firefighters.
Right.
So they probably get along much easier because there's smaller numbers.
Right.
But to deal with 5 unions, getting everybody together, that's a monumental job, so I congratulate you.
Yeah, I think it's great. I speak to them. We had our dinner, awards dinner, and we recognized the Dilla family, and I made sure I wanted Pat Hendry, and I wanted the vice president, Danny Torelli. I want him standing right next to me giving that award out, because you know what? That kid got killed in the line of duty. He was a police officer, got killed in the line of duty, and it was great that they made him a detective, for the pension for his family. And I want us to work together. We need to work together. It's important that we work together.
I totally agree.
Well, you have our support.
Thank you very much.
However we can help you.
Has the union decided if they're going to endorse, someone for president?
Right now, speaking to the other unions about this, I think it's in our best interest. We're NAPO. We're MAPO. We belong to NAPO, and they supported, obviously President Trump.
Right.
And I know normally they don't support Republicans, but this time around they're supporting Republicans. And where I'm a member, my union and the other unions are NAPO. So, right. We're gonna. I don't think it's going to be beneficial to us right now to do that. We all know, like I said, if you bleed blue and you support the blue, we're gonna come out and vote for you.
Right. Right, that's the way it should be.
Yes.
Just another question, too. In regards to allegations against detectives, okay, we know most of them are all bullshit, really. And so what is the union doing about that? I mean, like, I know, you go in front of CCRB, and we know how that goes. And
the CCRB is, I have a retired member assigned there every day, and I have the borough going down there every day, so they alternate. So Manhattan South one day, Manhattan North one day, depending on how many people are there. And they're there because they're the front line, okay? They're out there every day, okay? So I need them there to assist the people that we have working there, retired board members that are working there, which is good, So we're doing that. So there's an average of possibly it could be 2 to 3 people there daily to represent our people at CCRB. I will tell you that I think we have like over 90% found not guilty, and anything that went to trial with CCRB. That I will tell you with our attorneys, with Jimmy Michella, and and his whole group. That's basically what's going on there. So we're hitting it there. That's the difference. What we're doing now, we have a little bit more people assigned there. And they're longer. The hearings are much longer because everything is video and audio, and they got to go through all of that. And I sat down, before July, and I explained that to and had a nice conversation with Phil Karasak and Jimmy Michella, and basically explained that's their firm, and explained to them what we need, and moving forward, and that may change down the road too. Who knows?
And what about going when detectives are unfounded? Because we know it's all BS. Is the job going after?
Yeah, we should. We've been doing it. Yeah, we should. Yeah. We definitely should.
After the perpetrator.
Maybe that'll teach them a lesson. You put in false allegations against our member. They should.
Yeah, I truly believe that.
Faraday presenta Ojos con Alergia y Picazón contra el jardinero. Y el ganador es Faraday Extra Fuerte. Para aliviar la picazón de los ojos por alergia, actúa más rápido y supera a Claritin y Flonase aún a las 24 horas. Faraday, adelante.
Captain?
Well, I think this has been a very good interview. It brings back a lot of memories of my Detective Bureau days. Of the 40 years that I spent in the job, 2/3 were in the Bureau until I made captain. Then there was another world.
Right. Were you a delegate?
Yes, I was a delegate for the Narcotics Bureau. And we had the largest unit in the division, the detective division at the time. And I was pretty active. It was fun.
Good.
Yeah.
So. Also, it's fun going to work. It's fun representing detectives. I think it's great.
It's great.
I probably got the best job in the world. Doing what I do. Yeah. We take a fight on my feet, hit the ground in the morning, out of the bed. We're ready to fight. We're ready to go. And because remember, it's always about our membership. That's what counts. Yeah. It's about the membership. It's not about me. It's not about the board. It's about our membership.
I was an elected delegate. I was a delegate for 10 years, and I enjoyed every minute of it. And I was also on the Political Action Committee, the PAC at the time as well. And just like you're bringing it back now and bringing in retirees as well, I think it's a great thing what you're doing there. Because a lot of guys do want to get involved and want to get out there and help out, So it's good that you're reaching out to everyone, not just the active guys, but also the retirees as well.
Yes.
And it's the most famous shield in the world. Sorry, Cap. It is.
Yeah.
The Detective Shield of NYPD. Sorry there, Cap.
The most recognized shield.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's what,
absolutely.
I'll tell you this story about the shield. When I made captain, I went to the 7th precinct. And there was something occurred, and detectives came in. And the detective comes in, and I had my detective shield as a ring. It was given to me when I retired, or when I left the bureau. So he looks at it. He said, "That's the same shield number I had." This guy, this detective. So that was interesting.
That's funny. A lot of shields out there now. A lot of shields. We need more.
Yeah.
We need more detectives. We need more grade. And that's what we're going to fight for.
Every unit's short detectives, as we know, but the squads are just getting beat up.
Yes.
I mean, with the cases, the caseload is unbelievable. And like I said, then if flying out to a detail in Brooklyn, Bronx, keep them in Manhattan. If you're a Manhattan detective, stay in Manhattan. If you're a Brooklyn detective, put them in a detail in Brooklyn. Don't bring Brooklyn cops to Manhattan or vice versa. If you have the manpower, with some exceptions like the West Indian Day Parade, I get it.
Right.
Puerto Rican Day Parade or St. Patty's Day Parade, I get all that. You need the manpower from all over the city. But these, they send a cop or a detective from Manhattan out to Brooklyn for some, festival. I mean, come on, But Scott, I wish you luck. Okay, you're going to do a great job, I'm sure, as being the president of the largest detective union in the world, as well as the greatest detectives in the world. So we wish you luck with that. Anything you'd like to say to our listeners before we?
Well, I'd just like to thank you for having me here today. It was great, to get to get our side out. So the people of New York will realize that they need detectives out here. We need experience, and we're here for them. We're here for the people of New York.
Well, we hope to have you back again. Okay, I know you're a busy man these days, but hopefully we can have you back sometime soon, and maybe after the presidential election. I'm sure
that'd be great.
A lot to talk about then, as well as with the next mayor's race and governor's race as well. But once again, good luck to you, Scott Munro. Congratulations on being the new president for the DEA. And I'd like to thank everyone for listening to another episode of Cop Talk. If you like what you hear, you can subscribe to Cop Talk. You could also follow us on X at WABC Cop Talk, at WABC Cop Talk. Until next time.
And YouTube.
Thank you, Cap. Social media. But until next time, God bless you, God bless law enforcement throughout the world, and God bless America. Thank you.
Hello, folks. Larry Kudlow here. Pay attention, because China is leading the largest anti-American alliance since World War II. One that's already dumped U.S. bonds, grabbed 43 million acres of our farmland, and is plotting to dethrone the dollar. That's why IRA and 401k savers are protecting their savings with gold. Please go to freegoldguide.com/Kudlow or just call 800-621-3908 for your free gold guide on how to protect your wealth with gold 100% tax-free.